So if I run end of the program here, so I have two console log, right?
Yes.
We'll run this first and then this after, or we'll run this first and this after.
Should I answer?
Yes.
The second one first and the first one last.
Yes.
Because the file, that is the beauty of the callback function.
Yes. Yes. That's the non-blocking I/O. So when I hit this code will run in kind of a background, and then we'll carry on with this thread, and we'll run this. And when this callback is done, then it will run this code. Let's check it out. In fact, you can see end of the program first, and then when the callback is done, it will tell me the length of the file. This is extremely important bit of asynchronous programming. There's a lot of this causes a lot of problems and a lot of confusion in people. You need to really understand this bit here. This code, it will not block the execution. It won't. It will not block the execution. This will be fired and forget and will carry on. And only when it's done, it will run the code in the callback.
So
it will not run immediately. It will run only when it's done.
So this is an example of asynchronous code.
Yeah.
And how do you identify which is asynchronous, which is not asynchronous, or synchronous?
So first of all, that depends which API you use. This API obviously says this is asynchronous, it reads the entire content of the file. And second of all, when there is a callback, there is something smells of asynchronous.
I thought if we had like call it what? That delay time, which what do you call it? The delay time you said. Set time out. That's when we would have this code playing before the other.
Because it will read the file first, and afterward, when it will complete the function, then it will.
But I don't see any.
It will not
timeout.
Yeah.
So the timeout use a callback too. That's true. That's actually perfect valid. That's actually it's a synchronous code, because that callback, it will run every time the interval is fired.
So do we have interval in that?
No. We don't have interval here. You saw the callback in the set interval. You saw in this piece of code. So you have some code here. And then you have some time here.
Yeah.
Let's say it's 100 milliseconds. So this one also is a callback. And what it says that this will run every 200 milliseconds. This is an interval.
So basically, in this read file example, there's no interval or nothing, right? But the compiler, when it reads and execute, so here compiler needs some few milliseconds sometimes. So in the time, he's not waiting to execute the next one. He just go and execute and then come back when it's ready. So that is the time interval, you can say, hidden. Or if you take 2 minutes, so you wait 2 minutes until reading finish. If it's a heavy file, like a gigabyte file or something.
So now we go further. So you understand this this part, right? So let's say now I have another file, which I will create. Let's call it another file.txt. And in this file, I will do this. If you look, there is this fringilla. I will just put that thing in here. So that file contains fringilla, okay? So now what I want to do is to check if in this file there is the text that there is in this file. So I'm going to write a program that will read both files, take the content of this file, which is fringilla, and check if this text, in this case it's just a word, it's contained in this file.
So you do search function or something?
I will do just the index of.
No, it's basically searching the text
Yeah.
exists or not.
Yeah, it's just exist
Yeah.
once, at least once. So it's very, very simple. So I can. So what I could do here is to do this. I would be very tempted to do this, right? And I'm quite tempted to do this. Right? There's a problem that I need this before this, right? Because I need to get this one for this. And there's not such a pretty way to do that because I don't know when they both be done. So one way of solving this, this is the naive way, is to say, okay, I read that first, then I read the file. Let's call this the search item. And then I can say, okay, when I read the file, I can say so if data.index of search is different than -1, means that it exists. So if exists, I will say here founded. Otherwise, I will say okay. So I take the data. This is the data that comes from the myfile.txt with this one. It's a long text, right? I take those data. Then I say index of search. Search is the content coming from this file. So this file is this one. So this is just the word. If that exists, so it's different than -1, means that it's founded. Then I'll console log this. Otherwise, I will console this one. So let's run that. Founded. Now, if I change this, just to double check that is, if I do this one, and I not founded, because this word doesn't exist, but Fringilla exists in my text. Okay. Anybody can see the problem with this code. Of course, this code works, and that's not the problem. But there is inefficiency.
It's about 2 ifs.
No. Not.
There's the complexity in the code also.
I would say, yeah, that a part is the complexity of the code because you have a callback in the callback. And that's called callback hell. So that's definitely one issue, but there is also another issue. So why I need to wait for read my file after I'm done reading another file?
2 times read.
Why can't I just read them simultaneously? Why can't I read them exactly at the same time? And when they are both done, I perform this calculation. Do you agree with me? So here I'm reading this file. Then when this file is done, then I start to read this file. And then when this is done, then I perform this. Why I just don't read them simultaneously? First, those two, they can just start at the same time. And when they're both done, I can actually perform this check. So let's move this in a function first, just to be clear. So let's make a function. Let's call it a check if exists. And then let's put the code in there, and then we just pass data and we pass search. Okay. So and then here I will put that one in, and then I just data and search. Let's see if this still runs. Perfect. So if I do here, make a mistake, couldn't find it. Cool. So this is works. Okay. Any suggestions? Any suggestions how to solve this? What is a good tool to have control on a synchronous flow? Like there is a JavaScript tool that is very good to do this asynchronous flow management. Promises. Do you remember that? Do you remember promises?
Yeah.
Okay, so why I'm using util now? Util is another Node core module that allow me to promisify callback style function. Because this is the code that I comment here. It's use callbacks. It's hard to have a good flow control of multiple callbacks one inside the other. But if there were promises, then I could use the method .all and run them simultaneously.
Yeah.
Do you agree with me? Cool. So if you import this with a util equal require util, then have this util dot promisify, and here I can pass fs.read file, and just I can call read file p, which p stands for promises. So now instead of use this file, I can just use this one, and I can create the first promise. So read, so big file will be read file p, and you can see the syntax is the same. So path, so it's pretty much the same. Path is this one. Then options, and that you see it returns a promise. So let's call UTF-8. That's the encoding. Then I can do then. You see? If I can do catch and then, that means it's a promise. Cool. Let's save that there. Let's do the same with the search file. This is my file. Perfect. So I have the big file which contains the long text, my file.txt, and then I have another file which contains basically the search. Perfect. Naming are a bit confusing, I must admit. So now I can do promise. Oops. Promise.all. This goes an array, and then search file, and this will return an array of values. And this will be data and search. Cool. If I do a mistake, oops. Perfect. So we solved now the same problem with promises. So let's actually see how much improvement we have. Is this quicker? So let's create a timer. So let's do NODEjs, and let's log. Let's console log NODEjs minus t. This will be my time. So time. Okay. So if I run this, that took 3 milliseconds. I don't know what it is. That's quite quick. Let's make this file bigger. Perfect. So let's see if it takes a bit longer. No, it's very quick.
Did you save the file? Or?
Yeah, I did. It's just very quick.
So text file.
I'm gonna do some. Okay, nothing. Nothing is very big. Perfect. Perfect. So you can see the time increase if the size of the file. Let's say if I use this one, and I could be that one in, and I do that one, and I put it here. This seems slightly slower, you see? This is around 162, 153, 161, 148. The other one seems slightly quicker. You see, it's around 140, 130, 140. So you can see that actually promises makes things quicker. And this is a small improvement. Usually you can have massive improvements if the file were bigger, or if you were reading even more files, the improvement would be even larger. So now you can see just it's around 10%, but you can achieve 50-60% of improvement by using promises. And also it is slightly more easy to read, right? Because here you can just say, okay, please run those two, and when they're both done, return and do the check for me. So this is a quite important concept. So the entire callback. So we saw asynchronous code with callback, then we switched to asynchronous code with promises. We used the util.promisify to actually change a method that was meant to be with callback a promise. So you can see here this is quite powerful, right? We input here a callback style method. You see the callback in the end here, the callback style method, and with output something that actually returns a promise. There, returns a promise. Cool. I give you 15 minutes to play. Try to do something similar. Do whatever you want to do. I did this search. It exists, but you can do whatever you want to do. You can check if the length of two files are the same, for example. So you can read two large files, and check if the length are the same. And if it's not the same, you can print which is the difference and which one is the biggest. That's an input. Or you can check how long is the file, and if the length of the one of the two files is a multiple of the length of the other file.
Do you have any slide for read-write files?
No, just let's use read for now.
In future.
Yeah, we're gonna use write. let's see if we can actually make it today.
I'm just thinking that we can give the assignment to them, like small 2 files, read the file.
Oh yeah, there is exercise. Oh yeah, there is exercise in them. Yeah. Sure.
Okay, try this.
This is just a practice now to see if you understand. So you can do something very similar to what I do. I did this function for check if exists, but you can do a function to see what is the biggest.
Yes.
But yeah, there will be homeworks.
Yes. And let us know if you start somewhere or how to find something.
Uh-oh.
It's a nice chair.
Thank you so much.
It's nothing like this one. It is like this is running.
After creating the promise, we just read the file, the path of the file, and then we put the promise on it. Like this line has created the promise,
Yes.
and it is reading file.
Yes.
So in the flow,
It is not reading at the moment.
Yeah.
So you are just creating a variable
Yes.
that can have the promisify
Yes.
with some functionality, with some action.
Yeah.
So now you're defining. So I want to create a variable with promisify with this action.
Yes.
So this action is like read file, it can be write file, it can be anything.
Okay. So in a flow, like I want to read this file.
You want to read this file. Yes.
So I will give the path to this file.
Yeah, you can give the path, yes, definitely. So yeah. So you can give the path like calling like, yeah, you can define a path, yes.
Yes. And this one, this. Yes.
Which file you want to read first?
Oh yeah, my first.
So you can just write in it because if it's in a same folder directory, right? You don't need to define any path. So let's read this first.
Yes.
First file, yes.
Yeah. So read file.
Yeah. So this is a promise, right?
Yeah, this is a
It
promise.
can help you to read the file.
It has callback two parameter like it's you take a one callback function and one is error. So we can say that it's data and
No, first, can you fix here? It's not a read fs dot. Can you just copy it?
Mark,
Yep.
I can remember the second part.
So
you
you
did.
can read file, right? So that's because when to read specifically a file, not anything read, right?
Okay.
So we can define it's a read file, and then here.
I can make this bigger if you want to.
No, yeah, it's okay. I can see it.
So basically, so what it's saying.
saying that there is a path.
So read file. So read file. It means a path. Path. Path could be string, number, it could be URL or anything, right? And comma, and then you can pass options. Right? So we can define the path first. So which path you want to read?
Your file path.
File path, yes. Yes, comma. And then it says, now you can say okay, options. So encoding, you can write encoding, you can write flag or something, right? So here it's encoding. It's what kind of file you are reading. So you're reading UTF-8 sort of thing.
It's UTF.
Mark,
Yeah.
can you put this one on screen because I got it up, so
So if it's not a variable,
I'm in the beginning. So
Yeah, I can put it on
and
slide.
then everybody can easily see. So
It's important that you write yourself the code.
Yeah.
It's important that you don't copy and paste. Okay, okay. But remember to not copy paste. It's important that you get used to
And then we
write.
need
At the same.
we need to print this part.
yes. You don't need this column, but you need after this. Yes.
What about
I
this?
think it's okay.
Yeah, this. Now you can see it all of it.
File path. No.
So basically, see, now you are writing this as a promise, right? So promise to read this content, you need to call dot then method.
Yeah.
So,
I will
so here you don't need to define this way. You just need to define dot then. And then now you define a function also. Now you can say you can write function or you can write a E6 function. Yeah, exactly.
and inside
Inside you can put console log. So now you need to, so if you do console log, now we try to execute the code. Let's see what it says. But there's an error, right? Something right? So here it's saying the error what is there. So here, syntax is missing some ending brackets, right? So probably you can add one more ending bracket. So that's basically then is another function. Okay. So because it's empty, maybe let's say let's see what it goes.
And then we need to print the data.
No, we'll check it, but let's see if the arrow goes there. Function. So read file, read file as a path and option, right? Yes. Okay, so because you define this then, just
Yeah.
in bracket, so you don't need to do that. It's basically here. So you read file and then, right? Because then it's inside of the read file. That's the problem. So now it's not complaining, right? It's working. But does it serve your purpose? You're just printing the file name because the file name is already declared here, right? So you read the content, right? So you can do that. That's the question. So now you have to copy, right? So now you can say dot length. So it will just print length for you. Too much to read, right? Yeah. It's not in this way. You can read another file and compare which file is bigger or smaller, then print the file name. That's the task or exercise. Why do you have let's go. So you get a nice space. So what is it?
You do not promise a file is not a function.
Is not a function. So can you go where you declare? Can you just expand? I mean,
Yeah.
a bit more. So see, it's saying which line is it showing? 10, number line 10. So we go there, right? So here, right? So promisify is not a function, right? So yes. So where's the function? It's saying YouTube dot
Remove this require equal.
is the function.
No, I should just remove this. Same.
So this like this. So first you
I understand. Can't really finish it.
yes, it's right. So first